This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
And we promised you that Richmond Webb would be kind enough to join us now. First couple of years on the beat, it was during this man's tenure with the Miami Dolphins as Don Shula. I actually covered Don Shula's last couple of years in the league, and this was one of his draft picks in playing left tackle, the great Richmond Webb. Richmond, how are you doing, my friend? How you hanging in there today?
About as good as I guess can be expected considering the news. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Trying to stay COVID-free, but, the depression will set in a little bit here because, I was talking about this earlier, Richmond. It's what this man meant to all of us, to you as a player, to you as a person, to us as fans, to all of us as society, as an example on how to do things the right way, all the freaking time. Even in the worst situations, the man rose above everything to do things the right way. The example he set, people like Don Shula just don't exist that much anymore, my friend.
No, they don't make them like that every day. You're exactly right. And he wasn't just a coach, but, philanthropist, teacher, great businessman, you name it. He did it all. He can't be missed. I mean, he checked all the boxes. That's the best way I can see it.
Yeah. There's no doubt that he definitely set a standard, touched everybody's life, inspired so many. Talk to us for you. What was your first meeting like with Don Shula? How did that go?
Well, the first meeting was probably at minicamp, but before that, he actually was the guy that called me during the draft to let me know that I was being selected by the Dolphins. So that was huge right there. But I learned early to keep my mouth shut because I went and did an interview right after I got drafted, and they said, "What do you think of Coach Shula?" And I never met him. And I said, "Oh, he looked like he's got a suntan. He wears shades on the sideline. That's what his glasses look like on Monday Night Football." And my offensive line coach, rest in peace, John Sandusky, said, "Boy, is he in for a rude shock." So I got there, and I was, tough as nails, football IQ off the charts, but he demanded excellence. And I understand why he won not only just about every year, but through every decade. You think about it, he was successful, and very few people have that type of longevity, especially in coaching, especially in the NFL, to have that type of success. So, like you say, they broke the mold when they made Coach Shula.
What was your most nervous moment with Coach Shula?
Oh, getting called in his office. I remember getting called in his office. I think that was my second year. I hurt my knee in preseason and missed the first two games. And man, it was never good if you had to go to Coach Shula's office. So went back there and got chewed out because I was basically telling people that I really wasn't healthy, but I was playing. But his whole thing was everybody plays with something. Nobody's healthy throughout the whole 16-game season or whatever it is or whatever. And his advice was, you got to find a way, get the job done. He said, if you're injured, it's different than being, pain or hurt versus being injured. But he said, you got to find a way to get it done. And I walked out of there, I was pissed off that, after I cooled off and thought about it, I was like, he was right. People don't care about, if you're hurting a little bit or whatever. Matter of fact, defensive guys want to know that because they can say, okay, well, maybe I can do this to gain an advantage. But it just made me focus in more on the mental aspect of it And I think that's why I had so much success getting called into his office early. And thank goodness, I think that's the only time I remember. But, yeah, it wasn't a pleasant visit if you got called into Coach Shula's office.
And was there a lot of cussing in that meeting there?
He had a wide range of vocabulary, I will say that. So he was a walking thesaurus, I can tell you that. I heard some words that I've definitely heard before with the mic on and definitely with the mic off, so I'll put it that way.
Okay, all right. How was draft day for you with Shula? Talk to us, because obviously the draft back then was a huge difference than the show it is nowadays. So walk me through Shula picking you in the draft.
Got a call that morning from, I think, the Raiders. New Orleans called. The Dolphins, I think Coach Sandusky called, and maybe another team. And basically everybody was saying, if you're there, we're going to take you. And out of those teams, the Dolphins had the first pick. The earliest pick, they had the 9th pick. And, you hear that, but then, you see so much crazy stuff happen on draft day. So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. But the thing that was interesting, I was at home with my family in Dallas, and then Chris Singleton was the 8th pick. And as soon as they took him, my phone rang, and it was Coach Shula. I still had to wait the 15 minutes because back then, I think first-round pick, you had 15 minutes to select the first-round pick. But he called immediately when they were talking about Chris Singleton and said, okay, we're going to take you. So I knew like 15 minutes before they actually announced it, which was pretty cool. But, man, you're nervous because you're listening to the analysts and they say, well, this guy can use this and that. And then they take somebody else, then they take somebody else. So it was a big weight off my shoulders once I got selected by the Dolphins, and I was definitely happy about that.
So were you shocked that Shula put that kind of trust in you and Keith right away to start you guys and get you going right from the get-go?
Yeah, that was Coach Shula, and I think what else helped was it was 2 veterans that were, well, they wasn't under contract, they was holding out for a better deal. So I think the thing that was instrumental in me and Keith was we gelled right away, and then the other thing was they got both of us signed very early in training camp, so we got a ton of reps in training camp. We basically got all the preseason reps. And the veterans didn't really sign until maybe like the first week of the regular season. So we got a ton of reps with get us prepared. Not saying we were savvy veterans at that time, but he felt comfortable enough to put us on the blind side, which was almost unheard of. And it was, me and Keith was like a match made in heaven. I mean, that was the best thing that could ever happen to me when they drafted him. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah, no, I mean, for all of us, because you settled that left side of the line for a long, long time, and Dolphins always felt comfortable. Marino, I'm sure, always felt comfortable with that side of the line. That was one of those things that, hell, we're hoping now that, with the Austin Jacksons and the Robert Hunts of the world and these kind of guys that they just got, that they're able to turn the corner. What is your most memorable moment with Shula that you'll never forget? Something either personal, Richmond, something that happened in the football field, in a meeting room, in a meeting between you and him. Give me something that has always stuck out with you that maybe you don't talk a lot about with Shula.
I think 2 that comes to mind is when we were in Philly, and he became the winningest coach of all times. I remember we was on the road, and I can't remember what happened to Dan or whatever, or what happened, but Doug
Peterson,
actually the coach of the Eagles, he finished the game, and we won that game. So I remember that, and I can remember my rookie year being selected to the Pro Bowl, and the thing that was about that, he saved, my name for last to announce that I had actually made it. So I'll never forget that, because he definitely caught me off guard with that one. I wasn't prepared for that one.
What was it about a Shula team that you could win with Marino, without Marino? They could win in a strike-shortened season. They can, you weren't there, but they got with Woodstock to the Super Bowl. It just, Greasy goes down, Earl Morrall steps in. They don't miss a beat. What is it about that guy that your teams always seem to find a way to overcome adversity?
Well, I think one of it is, like you said, you don't have to be the most talented, but you don't do things to beat yourself. And that was something that we, was instilled early on. Know your assignments, not a bunch of known errors. And not, he was big on being the least penalized teams in the NFL. So it's hard enough to make a first down, but if you got to go 1st and 15 or 1st and 20, it just makes it that much more difficult to keep the chains moving, and vice versa. If you're on defense, you jump offside instead of offense has to go 10 yards, you got to go 5 yards. So just that, and then figuring out, he had a way of figuring out a way of where the mismatches were, where he felt we could actually win, this and that. And then just being a great game manager, I think that's what it is, like you said, if you got a Marino out and you can still pull out a game, something like that, that's huge. So everybody can't do that, but he had that, and he did it very well.
Richmond, did you see a little of that in Brian Flores? Because they had very little talent, my brother, and they tore it down to the bone, and yet they were one of the least penalized. They were one of the least penalized teams in the NFL. They didn't really do a lot of mistakes and kill themselves, and maybe that's why they won 5 games, because they kept themselves in games. A lot of what you were talking about, Flores showed a little bit of that even in his first year with these guys. Did you see that? Did you notice it?
I think what Coach Flores realized was it's going to be about the team first, and the same thing philosophy with Shula. And I always say you don't have to go reinvent the wheel. There's enough great examples out there that study coaches, Coach Shula. Even he came from Coach Belichick. He's a great coach, but he figured out this is the way we're going to do it. It's going to be about the team first, and if you're not on board, we're going to get you out of there. And it didn't matter whether you were the top of the chart or the bottom of the chart. He had a certain way he was going to do it. And I think guys, they bought into it. And, I thought they drafted great last year. And then, some of the moves they made where we stockpiled all the draft picks this year. And then the way they managed the draft and everything, free agency, not overpaying for people, this and that. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to have a lot of success in South Florida.
Yeah, me too. I you know why? Because finally it looks like real football people are making decisions instead of guys that are trying to buy the shiny objects in free agency, trying to make up mistakes in the draft, all of that. These guys are not like that, man. These guys are old football guys because what a shocker, Richmond. They've realized that you got to build the team from inside out. Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing, huh, Richmond? How you get real football people and they figure out that you don't win the game if you don't win at the damn line, right?
It's not rocket science, but he was able to, a lot of people say, well, what are you doing, this and that, and blah, 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 and didn't agree, this and that. And, a lot of fans were unhappy that, some of the moves we were making and this and that, but those same fans will be the ones that's truly happy in the long run. And I thought, I said, hey, it may be a little uncomfortable, it might be a little tough this year, but man, for the longevity of everything, it's going to be a whole lot better.
Yeah, no, I'm with you all the way. Out of curiosity, did you see anything in Austin Jackson that you like? I don't know how much you watch USC. I don't know how much you know of the kid, but you know a little something about playing left tackle. So I got to ask you about the Dolphins left tackle. What are your thoughts on the young man?
Yeah, I didn't really watch a bunch of USC, but I did see his highlights that they showed during the draft. Seemed like he's very athletic, great footwork, great movement, good body control. I think one of the things people were concerned about is he is young, but that doesn't concern me. He just maybe needs to get a few more reps, but his upside is through the roof. So when you can get a guy that's that athletic that can move and stuff like that, definitely a plus. So I was very excited when I seen. I understand why they took him in the first round. I'll put it that way. Yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah, he is a hell of an athlete. There's no doubt about that. The great Richmond Webb joining us here on the program, drafted by Don Shula on a sad day where we lose the GOAT. Don Shula passes away at the age of 90, the greatest coach of all time in Dolphin history, one of the greatest coaches, period, in all of pro sports. Before I let you go, Richmond, give me your favorite Don Shula moment that might be a little bit more personal to you, for that will always stand out. Give us one.
I think one of the things was, he was big on just not football, but he really valued the charities working. I remember when I first got there, getting involved with the United Way, and he was huge as far as about giving back to people that was less fortunate than we were. We were truly blessed, and we got to do something that most people dream of, and he encouraged it, and got me into that and this and that, and it was just like basically the majority of the team participated. And that's one thing I always have a tremendous amount of respect for him, because he always thought of people that were less fortunate than him, and he instilled that in me. So that's one thing that sticks out.
There you go. The great Richmond Webb joining us on the program. You can follow him on Twitter, by the way, at Richmond Webb. Richmond, thank you for taking some time, my friend. I hope you and the family stay safe during this COVID-19, and we will hang out again. Looking forward to it.
Sounds good, Big O.
You got it,
Thank you very much.
Okay. You got it. My
All
pleasure.
Right,
there you go. The great Richmond Webb, man.